broadcasting from Southeast Kansas once again. I'm Jonathan Switzer, and this is my latest attempt to start doing this sort of thing again. This is a little something I've decided to call this Robotech thing. I'm calling it this for a couple of reasons. One is just practicality. I was searching for a name for this and trying to figure out what I was going to call it. I wasn't going to use the Robo blog moniker anymore. And I just sort of, it's kind of this Robotech thing I want to be doing. And then I thought, remember that quote? Remember that quote from the first episode of the TV series, the one that gets way overused, especially by early enthusiastic fans of the show? The Roy Falker quote, this Robotech thing was just so exciting I just couldn't give it up. It just gets in your blood or something, I don't know. This Robotech thing. I remembered that quote and I thought, yes, a reference to that thing, but also, again, just a practical, useful moniker. This Robotech thing. So that's what I'm calling it. Now, the better question, probably, most of you are thinking right now, if you've been watching my stuff over the last, 6 years or so now, why, Jonathan? Why are you doing this again? That's because, honestly, I can't stop thinking about Robotech. It has really gotten into my blood. I've been doing analysis and discussion, and I've been a part of the Robotech online community, more like a fly buzzing around the periphery of the Robotech community. Rarely stepping in at this point, but I've been buzzing around for again like over 15 years. The switch in the back of my head, this mode, it doesn't shut off. And I had some ideas and I had some thoughts and I had some things I still felt like I wanted to share with you, the Robotech enjoying public, and so here we are again. And a fine way to start, I think, would be answering the question, why Robotech? Because John Thomas, smart guy, used to do the Protoculture Times podcast, one of your quality Robotech podcast endeavors. He's gotten disillusioned, of course, in recent years. He was getting disillusioned, I think, pretty early on when he was doing the podcast, when he was having antagonism from certain sectors of the fan community coming at him. And he's doing another episode. He's doing one more, talking to Michael Bradley, which that should be interesting listening. That should be must listening for Robotech fans. But I saw him on Facebook maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago. I've been sort of letting this whole thing fester in my head for a while, so I can't remember the time frame. But it was sort of kicking up some dirt, kicking up some dust, sort of shuffling his feet verbally, with sort of a why Robotech, why oh me, oh my sort of thing. And it did get me thinking, why do I keep coming back to this thing? Why do I keep, putting a certain amount of faith, a certain amount of enthusiasm towards this thing, when, let's be fair, most of the product of the last 10, 12 years, most of the product under, the Robotech.com Tommy Yoon era of Robotech has been substandard, let's say. Let's be polite here. Let's be nice. I don't want to raise a fuss. Don't want people shouting obscenities at me in the YouTube comments underneath. But it has been substandard. Robotech Battlecry was pretty good. The first comic book miniseries was okay. The third comic book miniseries, setting aside the utterly pointless backup strip, that was all right. The little side-scrolling shooter on the Game Boy, was okay. And the Shadow Chronicles was, I think the best one can say for that is it was kind of like a mediocre, undercooked video game OVA. Watchable. The voice cast was good. Some of the character designs were alright, but it just didn't amount to a whole heck of a lot, which is the cryingest shame of all. Why do I keep getting my hopes up? Well, I keep getting my hopes up because of the promise I saw in Robotech. Not only when I was sitting there, I've probably told this story before, but bear with me for a bit. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, that's about when Robotech came out. Robotech came out originally in 1985. I was 4 years old. It came to my attention probably a year or so after that. My mom thumbing through the TV guide looking for things that she thought I might want to watch. She knew I liked robots. I had some Shogun Warriors. So I basically got a Great Mazinger and a Getter Poseidon in my hands, practically from birth. I went into a GoBots phase, that went into a Transformers phase, and so, my mom's going through the TV guide, she highlights Robotech, she goes, well, this is a thing you might want to watch. It's on at 6 in the morning, on such and such a station. I don't remember the station it was on. When I'm laying there on the couch, the lights are still out, I'm watching it, I'm still not quite completely awake, and I'm just drinking in the imagery. I'm just drinking in these pictures flashing on the screen in front of me, and it is the most amazing thing my eyes have ever seen. My little, 5, 6, whatever-year-old eyes are drinking in, the imagery of Macross, Southern Cosmos. I distinctly remember, a year or so later, getting up and seeing Reflex Point. I know I wasn't paying that much attention because I did not catch the fact that Sierra was an invid. I saw the green blood on her, and I went, Johnny, but I caught, big plot point, she's an alien. They didn't know that. That embedded itself in my mind. The imagery, the multi-generationality, the infiltration, all of this stuff. I soaked it all in. And when Robotech disappeared from the airwaves, it was still in the back of my mind. The only artifacts of the show that my parents ever bought me, during this time period, I got a copy of the first novel, Genesis, and then the following year, when the first Sentinels novel came out, my mom bought it and gave that to me. And so I was looking at these two images, and I tried as a grade schooler to read that first Robotech novel. I could read all the words, I just couldn't process it into the images. After a certain point, my brain glazed over. So 1992 rolls around, and we're on a trip, and we go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I see the first Suncoast Motion Picture Company store I had ever seen. And they, in 1992, already have a very small, actually it wasn't that small for one reason, and I'll get to that in a second, a Japanese animation section. They have an anime section in 1992 at Suncoast Motion Picture Company store, a rack full of anime VHS tapes. And the reason it's a rack full of anime VHS tapes is because they've got Robotech. It's because they've got the entire 6-volume 100-minute tapes from Family Home Entertainment. The entire series edited down into 6-episode chunks of 100 minutes each. All of the Macross saga, and then all the Palladium Books Southern Cross tapes, and all the Palladium Books New Generation tapes, and a copy of Sentinels, I believe. And I see all of that, and I freak out, and I tell my mom, I need one of these tapes. I need one. I need all of these tapes, but bargaining power when you're 11 years old, not very high. So, she does get me that first tape, and I watched it, and I rewatched it, and I re-rewatched it, and I took my Robotech novel, and I read. I took both of my novels, and I read them, and I acquired more of the novels, and it became the passion of a convert. It became the passion of, somebody who's had this barrier in his mind up until that point. And that barrier was burst wide open, and I wanted every last scrap of information I could get on Robotech into my head. And it's that mania that blossomed over the next several years. I scrambled. I got almost all of the novels over the next several years. Basically, just finding them wherever I could, and building this picture of the Robotech universe in my mind. And it took me years to convert from being, hardcore McKinney novel minded to looking at the comics and looking at some of the alternative ideas they presented, and looking at the RPGs and some of the books and some of the alternative ideas that they presented, and sort of creating in my mind this sort of balanced, strange, composite chimera version of the Robotech universe. And then, of course, 2000 rolls along, and I have to tear all that down and open myself up to whatever new possibilities lie ahead, and I find most of these possibilities, most of these alternatives, not that great. Kind of, wish that, some of the things that were built up during the lean years were still standing. But those things still exist. Those things do definitely still exist, and if someone were to step in and write new Robotech, they could, of course, draw from that wellspring of ideas. You never know. After all, the Shadow Chronicles is basically, a heavily reworked and blanded, version of the early chapters of the End of the Circle. And with Love, Live, Alive, the new animation coming along, Lancer figuring into that, maybe some of the scenes from the End of the Circle will be replayed, or a blander version, or maybe, hopefully, a version where Sarah doesn't get killed off. You never know. You never really know. You may be aware, Love, Live, Live is complete. Love, Live, Live, for those who do not know what it is, it was originally a piece of animation created in the mid-1980s for fans of Genesis climber Mospita. About 10 minutes or so of new footage, sort of making up a wrapper around a bunch of Mospita footage, cut to musical tracks from the show, generally the songs from the show, Yellow Belmont's songs. Somebody, about 2 years ago, got the genius idea in their head during the 25th anniversary to take that footage, craft some new footage, and make a new animation project as sort of a Robotech retrospective. I'm not sure if this originated with Harmony Gold, Tommy Yoon and company, or if, it might have been sort of Carl Masek's idea, but at any rate, he was going to do it. He was going to be the guy behind it, or maybe he was going to do the script. He was associated with it in some way, as I understand it, and then he died. And that's unfortunate. And so it's still been in the works for the last couple of years. And apparently it's done, and it's 75 minutes long. And they say that content media who apparently engineered, the Harmony Gold A&E connection to do the latest iteration of the DVD box set, they have it in their catalog now. And they say, okay, well, here it is. It's 75 minutes. You also get the original Japanese version, which is 50 minutes, and you get some other stuff that you can slap onto a DVD. And some people are going, oh, well, then there's 25 minutes of new footage. Well, there's 25 minutes of other footage. Of course, if they're doing a full-blown retrospective of the entire Robotech saga, there's going to probably be some Macross footage put in there. There's going to be some Southern Cross footage put in there. And then, of course, there's new footage. Now, of course, I think they're probably going to take some of that Mosbia footage out because it's just recut Mosbia footage set to music, and that's not exactly what they're doing with this anymore. So, who knows what the new animation content amount is going to be. It certainly isn't going to be just flat out 25 new minutes. It's going to be maybe a little less, maybe going to be a little more. We'll find out when the production is done and when it is released on DVD. Who's releasing on DVD? We don't know. Content Media hasn't made the connection for this yet. It just showed up in their catalog within the last couple of days. The other news story is that Harmony Gold is doing another calendar this year. I didn't think they were going to do another calendar this year. I have the calendar they made for this calendar year, and I thought they'd used up all of their existing imagery. I guess not. Well, actually, what it appears to be based on their solicitation is they've got a lot of the images that they've used for DVD covers over the years. You've got the famous shot of Rick and the Veritech with just the VTOL legs down, not the back transformed or anything. And then you've got the fortress in the background and all that. The one that appears on the ADV poster that used to be my backdrop when I was doing this at the old house 6 years ago. And of course you got the Quidlin Rao with the big missile barrage, and you got the battle pod just sort of standing there in the middle. Common stuff we've seen 101 times before. The Harmony Gold in-house imagery that they're using is pretty much, there's a shot of the Zentradi villainess from Robotech Battlecry, that's Tommy Yoon piece. There's the Tommy Yoon Dana as a nurse, that thing's going to be used. I forget what the other ones that are Harmony Gold in-house. Yes, the Love Live Alive cover, which is basically the Lancer Yellow Dancer picture that Tommy had on like little flyers back during the 20th anniversary. So, and of course, Harmony Gold in-house, but not modern. There is the Sentinels group shot against the explosion. It's apparently in the calendar this year. So, I won't mind getting that. I'll probably pick that up. I picked up the last one eventually, about halfway through the year. I'll probably be a little more quick on the gun on this one, and just so long as I can find a place to put up a calendar here. Anyway, so moving right along. At this point, I'm going to segue to something that's going to be a recurring feature on the show, which is something I call Robo Junk Get. I bought things off of the eBay, off of the internet, Robotech related stuff. I will show it off. I will, show you what it does. I will, a lot of this stuff doesn't do anything. It's just, pretty art, or it'll be a book or something. But but there will also be a lot of toys. I've been picking stuff up for a bit, so I have shot a whole bunch of footage of a whole bunch of different things, and I'll be showing it off like one a week. So let's move right along to the first installment of Robo Junk Get. So my interests when it comes to Robotech merchandise and collectibles tend to run in two diametrically opposed directions. On the one hand, I like the sort of kitschy, kiddie stuff that they were putting out in the 1980s. Coloring books. The Matchbox toy line, of course, has a certain kiddie element that the Japanese toys didn't have. I've always kind of wanted the Tiger Electronics pinball game. That sort of stuff interests me. The stuff that seems to be at odds with the show itself. On the other hand, I like unique stuff. Original artwork, that kind of thing. Stuff that is absolutely one of a kind. And while I was trolling on eBay a couple of months ago, I came across something that took these two worlds and collided them, at least as far as I can tell. What I need is a good photo in order to be absolutely 100% sure. But I'm about 95% sure. And let me show you this. To the untrained eye, and to the eye of the seller who was selling it on eBay, this just looks like a loose, incomplete Matchbox / Harmony Gold / Playmates Veritech Fighter vehicle. To the trained eye, this is a Matchbox / Harmony Gold / Playmates Veritech Fighter with all the markings from the Playmates Exo-Squad Robotech line toy box, which was never produced. I mean, it's the same toy. It's, in fact, the paint job, aside from the weathering, is exactly the same. You can still see the yellow fin edges there. That would have marked it as the yellow and black, Skull One marked, VF1SJ thing that the Matchbox toy is. But the stickering is completely unique. These are not markings you found in the box with that toy. Now, the reason I think this is actually the model, I'd have to have the photographs off of the Playmates Exo-Squad toy box to be sure. The reason I think this is actually the genuine article, aside from the fact that they never commercially made these stickers, included them with any packaging, in any box, is because it's actually a Harmony Gold issued Veritech toy. That was the last production run they made before Playmates got the license and got the molds. So it would make a lot of sense for them to have used a Harmony Gold produced Veritech Fighter as their model for the toy box. Would have made a whole lot of sense. Now, it was always strange to me that the Veritech Fighter that was on the box didn't have the standard markings. It didn't have the kite right here, and the stripe, and then the kite on the stripe here, and then the yellow and the black on there, but the more standard black venting there, standard black stripe. That didn't make any sense. It was the strangest thing looking at the Veritech Fighter box, because not only did it seem to go out of its way to change all the decaling, but it also, more than any of the other packages, they described it totally differently than
the Robotech in-universe Veritech fighter. The hover tank file dossier seemed to derive heavily from the description of the hover tank out of the Palladium Books role-playing game. The Veritech was just a total mess when it came to the description, as I recall. The GU-11 is described as a plasma cannon, that sort of thing. I've always wondered why that was. And while having this in hand sheds no light on that mystery, it brings it to mind in a very, well, tangible way. Now, some notes about this actual item. The landing gear piece here is broken. That's the catch right there that would keep it up. That's busted. Both of them are busted. There's a part of me that really kind of wants to track down another one of these, whether it be from any of the other production runs or this one, and maybe replace those. Of course, gun pod's missing, like I said, loose, no parts. This is what that catch is supposed to look like, and this one does work just fine. Head turret has had some extra paint done on it. I don't know if that's part of that production run or if that's just something they did. This is the one part of the whole thing that bugs me. In the photography on the auction, this sticker was in mint condition, but if you look at it, it's raised a bit. And when they packed it up, that cotton there, that sticker tore. Now, of course, these are unique one-of-a-kind stickers, so it's not like I'm ever going to be able to replace that. That's kind of the way I would sort of comfort myself over this is, well, I mean, it's still a one-of-a-kind item, no use crying over it. Sticker peeling, of course, that's going to happen with the tiny little edges like that over 15 plus years. Anyway, so that is the Playmates box model Veritech fighter. Again, as far as I'm aware, as far as I can tell based on looking at it, based on the available evidence, that's the guy. So, an interesting piece, the kind of thing that, I mean, the seller didn't know what it was. They just thought it was, it's another one of these, Matchbox or Harmony Gold or Playmates Veritech Fighter toys, the non-transforming one that you put an action figure into. But little did they know, they had kind of a thing there. I'm not sure they would have gotten much more money, even if they had known it was kind of a thing. They might have asked for more, but they might not have got it, because, I mean, who but me would want that, really? Anyway, an interesting piece. Definitely an interesting piece. Well, at least to me. Your mileage may vary.
Alright, so moving on to our final segment, which is going to be a little something I like to call Pie in the Sky. Pie in the Sky is going to be basically me spitballing some sort of insane Robotech idea that is probably not going to pass. But it's a thought exercise. It's something, that probably just came to me in the shower at some point, or while I was on a long walk, and I sort of, built it up to entertain myself. And if this actually happens, I will laugh. I will laugh uproariously. It is probably not going to happen. But, for your amusement, let me describe for you this week's Pie in the Sky idea. Okay. This was born out of thinking about the Lucasfilm purchase by Disney. Okay. If you don't remember that week particularly well, the thing is, this thing broke out of nowhere. And then, within a couple of days, a rumor floated that Disney, after buying Lucasfilm, was now going to buy Hasbro. And I had, before that rumor broke, been saying, considering Hasbro has their own network, I figured, oh well, Hasbro's got bigger fish to fry. They're going to want to be their own thing. They're going to want to be their own entity. They're going to want to build themselves into an alpha dog here. They're not going to want somebody else to be buying them. Transformers will never go under the aegis of Disney. And then, this rumor crops up, and then I remember, oh right, Marvel got purchased by Disney after they started their own studio, after they decided they were going to go their own way, they're going to do their own thing, they were going to, be their own men. Then Disney goes, ooh, that's enticing, they got a movie studio that's making incredibly successful franchises. So, that gets me all, whoa, hey, anything could happen. But it was that idea that, we've seen Nickelodeon buy the Ninja Turtles, we've seen Disney buy all the Marvel properties, we've seen Disney now buy Star Wars and a certain stake in Indiana Jones, and then they seemed to be perched, ready to swallow up, Transformers and G.I. Joe whole. So, I thought, well, what about Robotech? Now, Robotech, of course, is, at this point, if you go to the strata of 80s properties, Robotech is, a little under, say, Thundercats and Voltron, and they're a little over Jason the Wheeled Warriors and Silverhawks, not a big deal, not, like Marvel Comics superheroes level, or, Transformers level, or, especially not even Star Wars level. But, it's a thing. It's a thing people remember. It's a thing people like. It's a thing that, managed to sell a bunch of $30 box sets over Black Friday. At least compared to all the other anime available on Amazon.com. It's a thing. It's not a big thing, but it's a thing, right? So, something that people have been thinking for a while now. Remember Warner's still has the Robotech movie rights. Or the last we heard, they still had them. Eventually movie rights expire. But, last we checked, they still had that. And they had a merchandising agreement with Harmony Gold. And a lot of people seemed to be thinking, you got that merchandising deal, you got the movie thing going on. Does Harmony Gold just want Warner's to buy Robotech? Let's say, Warner goes, okay, we got that Robotech thing, right? We got that thing. We could do that thing, I guess. And in fact, here let's try to build that thing into something. Let's just go to Harmony Gold and buy it. So, Mr. Warner Brothers and, Mr. Junior Executive and Assistant, Warner Brothers guy go to Harmony Gold, and they go to Frank, and they write a number on a slip of paper, and they pass the slip of paper to Frank, and Frank takes a look at the slip of paper, and Frank turns to Kevin and says, hey, Kevin, go into the archives room, knock me off some copies of what Robotech's, brought us in, the last few years, and Kevin, sort of, nods and runs off and gets the reports for Frank, and Frank takes a look at it, and Frank's looks at the two numbers he's got in front of him and goes, this number on the little slip of paper is significantly higher than this other number. Yes, let's give Robotech to Warner's. Now what Warner's gets is Robotech. They get to have the TV series. They get to have all the rights to all the names and everything. They get the Macross trademark internationally in the United States of America. They get all the rights that Tatsunoko transferred to Harmony Gold back in the 1980s. There's the sticking point of Japan. So Mr. Warner's and junior executive and assistant go off to Japan. Now, Tatsunoko's always been cool with Harmony Gold, because Tatsunoko is the company that Harmony Gold dealt with. So, getting some sort of mutually beneficial agreement going with Tatsunoko is no sweat. It's Big West that's the problem. Because, Big West has been the sticking point for years and years and years, because, Big West was, they're the rights holder for Macross. They made the investment. They own that thing there. The original sin of Macross, that has led to all of this crap, was Big West, going, well, these kids can't really, get this whole thing done. We need some experienced hands here. Hey, Tatsunoko Productions, why don't you co-produce this and we'll give you the international rights? And those go, oh, okay. And then they farm out to all their animation work to, lesser Korean contract studios, so many episodes of Macross look like crap, and they also get the international rights as part of the deal, and they transfer those international rights, and apparently in perpetuity, to Harmony Gold, and it becomes a big to-do. Because Big West, didn't think that, Noboru Ishiguro and Shoji Kamori and Haruhiko Mikimoto and their buds were up to, producing a weekly, animated television program. So, Warner, Mr. Warner guy, junior executive and assistant all go over to Big West. And this is the key here. This is the thing that, was spinning in my head. If they do the same thing they did to Frank, write down a number, pass to the head of Big West, he looks at the number, and this may in fact be a bigger number. He gets Big West's Kenji, let's call it, and bring all the documents over, and he decides ultimately, I like this number. This is a good number. Let's do this thing. If that happens, what happens then? Well, for one thing, hopefully one thing that means is, we get Macross Frontier, Macross 7, Macross Do You Remember 11. We get all that stuff over here in the U.S. The interesting thing that crossed my mind was, if that happened, is there ever another Japanese Macross show? If Macross is swallowed whole by Warner or any other rights holder who decides that Robotech is a thing that they want, if their solution to the problem is, well, we'll go talk to Big West and we'll buy Macross from them for a large sum of money, then does that mean we ever get another Japanese Macross show? No, I absolutely deplored Macross Frontier, so I'm looking at this going, is that really going to be a bad thing? A lot of people love Macross Frontier. A lot of people who are still riding the anime zeitgeist who are not bothered by the elements of Macross Frontier that bugged me so much, and are not bothered by the blatant pandering to longtime Macross fans that was going on in Macross Frontier. They might have a problem, and there might still be a problem if the next show wouldn't be quite so blatantly pandering. A Macross 00 to or a Gundam 00 to Macross Frontier's Gundam Seed. Maybe the next show would be something I would like more. And then that possibility would be eliminated. Who knows? After all, the thing is, this is called Pie in the Sky. Is this going to happen? Probably not. This is just a thought exercise. It's something that was just occurring to me as I was making a very, very long walk one day. Well, I hope you found that amusing in some way. And if that spurs any thoughts in your head, please leave them in the comments thread. that's going to be the show for this week. So, as always, this is Captain JLS signing off.